Well, Dr. Austin Sam George, Commissioner for Information in Rivers State, joins us next. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we've just heard Honorable Agoma giving his perspective in terms of that particular clip about the printer caught printing material. He says this is clearly orchestrated by the PDP, and the narration was so spot on, he thinks you're making a mountain out of a molehill.
No, I don't think so. You know, Chamberlain, I worry so much about the future of this country. I mean, we are now faced with a situation where an independent electoral body is working in open collusion with the APC. I mean, how do you orchestrate something like that? The people have made confessional statements. They've said very clearly on camera that we were hired by APC members, and some of them are in fact members of the APC. Some of them are relations. I mean, the fellow who is the proprietor of that printing enterprise is a blood relation, a cousin actually to the Akuku Piti side.
Honorable Aguma alleges that they were actually brutalized to make that kind of statement.
Oh no, I mean, we all saw it. I mean, if you go online, you see, you know, the viral video that is circulating all over the place. They were not tortured, they were not touched, they were not beaten. They made confessional statements that in fact we were hired to do what we are doing. So my own major concern is actually the kind of institutional betrayal that we've seen. A situation where an independent body, you know, during President Jonathan's time, there was this, you know, persistent clamor for electoral reforms, and we actually made some progress. You could argue back and forth about the quality of electioneering process that we had, you know, in the past administration, but we actually had some milestones. We had the card reader system, we had a fairly transparent process, but now, just over 1 year down the line, even those minor gains that we had in terms of electoral reforms have been taken away. A situation where a political party already knew in advance on a unit-by-unit basis, you know, where elections will be held, and then orchestrate this kind of what looks like an industrial-scale electoral fraud, you know, in anticipation of an election that is even yet to hold. This is scandalous, and I think that we need to worry not just about elections in Rivers State, but the integrity of the electoral process in the country.
Yes, sir, Jamal. You know, when we hear things like this, and the other party tells the nation that this is really something done by your own party to make the APC look very bad in the eye of the public, how do you truly, you know, extricate yourself of that kind of allegation and make people believe that truly this is what it is? Because as he asked in his closing, there wasn't any police commissioner or police chieftain other than the governor, whom he said is taking the position of the security personnel in the state.
No, that's not true. In fact,
but you heard him.
Yeah, but you know, that's not true. You know, you in your own intro before the interviews, you know, your correspondent in Port Harcourt made it clear that those who have been apprehended are in fact in police custody. They are not in the custody of the governor. They are not in the custody of the Rivers State government. These are people who are now in legitimate police custody for electoral fraud and forgery. You know, it's a sad thing, you know, when, you know, you make what looks like manifest criminality turn it into a political football, you know, kicking, you know, around, you know, between the PDP and the APC. This is a very serious problem, and in fact, I would have thought that, you know, the APC will rise to the challenge of citizenship by saying, no, we can't accept this. We may be involved in politics. We may have fundamental policy or ideological differences with the PDP, but we can't allow an entire electoral process to be derailed by this kind of manifest criminality. So I would have thought that this is a time when there are very reasonable people in the APC, and I wonder why they are not owning up to this kind of tragedy and condemning it outright. I mean, this is not something to be kicked around as a political football. This strikes at the very root of our democratic practice, and a situation where we have, you know, this kind of industrial scale fraud. This is not just, you know, changing figures. We are talking about a party importing specialized machines and going into the manufacturing of sensitive electoral material. This isn't just...
do they truly look genuine?
Oh yes, I mean, they had security codes, they had specific you know, security papers, they had an industrial scale machine. They were not doing commercial work, they were dedicated to this kind of printing of electoral material. So this is unprecedented. I mean, I know we've had a checkered history, in terms of the kind of politics that we pray. The character of our politics is inherently tied to fraudulent practices. But I tell you, we've never seen it on this kind of industrial scale. The tragedy of it all, Chamberlain, is we have seen in just over a year the rapid degeneration of a party of change becoming a party of, a syndicate of fraudsters, a situation where you actually anticipate an election, the results of an election that hasn't even held.
Well, he also says that part of why there's a lot of focus about this is because Magnus Abe is coasting home. He said he's established a 35,000 vote lead, and your party wants to do everything to put him down.
No, but that's not even correct. The INEC, after the rerun polls on the 19th of March, made it clear that those elections were inconclusive. So how did he get the figures? How did he know that Magnus Abe had a 35,000 lead? In fact, my suspicion is that all of these dubious figures that are being bandied around are figures supplied to the APC by INEC itself. The INEC is effectively...
INEC again?
Yes, INEC
the APC blames INEC, the PDP blames INEC.
Listen, let me tell you, Suleiman, INEC is effectively an organ of the APC. It's a tragedy. This is not a PDP or APC matter. What we are talking about is a national disaster, a situation where INEC has abandoned every pretense to independence. They've abandoned every pretense to objectivity. They are now working shoulder to shoulder with APC in order to rig an electoral process that hasn't even... Look at what happened in Rivers State. We had inconclusive elections, so-called, by the INEC. Even when PDP was manifestly in the lead, they said, these elections were inconclusive. In some cases, in fact, in 8 local governments, they said the elections, they will come back later and hold them. 5 months after that, they started wanting to declare elections in time. And we said, no, you can't do that. We got a court injunction and stopped them. INEC kept citing insecurity as a reason for not holding elections.
Were they not correct?
No, they were not correct. In fact, it took the persistent pressure of the governor of Rivers State to say, look, you can't possibly be holding our people to ransom. You are not conducting elections due to no fault of ours. They cited insecurity as a reason. But I tell you, I live in Port Harcourt, I work in Port Harcourt. We have over 43,000 people working in the state civil service. All institutions in Port Harcourt, in Rivers State, are working. We've had, over the course of 1 year, we've had all kinds of international conferences that pass off without a single security incident. When it comes to elections, where the APC members are projected to lose, all of a sudden they dredge up this excuse that elections wouldn't hold. It took the pressure of the governor of Rivers State and lately the pressure of the Senate of the country to even give deadlines for the APC, for the INEC to fix a date for this election. They've lost every pretense to objectivity and non-partisanship. It's a disaster we are seeing right in front of our eyes.
Let's bring Abuja in on this. Mark,
Well, it's definitely very worrisome, when you accuse INEC as strongly as you do, because they still have the responsibility to conduct the elections that you want conducted. So if you do not have any confidence in terms of what it is that they're supposed to be doing, how are you going to be, taking home the results, even if you win the elections? How are you going to be taking home the results as that was conducted by an INEC that was truly independent?
Mark, that's an excellent question. You see, the nature of confidence, and I have taught a bit of this thing in the course of my work in the university. The nature of confidence building is such that you don't ask for confidence. Confidence is something that has got to be earned. We would like to support INEC. My government has made it very clear that we'll work toe-to-toe with INEC. We will support them. We'll give them logistical support, any kind of support. We will give them support to make sure that they run a very fair, transparent, and credible electoral process. But confidence is something that has to be earned by INEC as an independent electoral institution. We have lost that confidence, clearly. Does it mean the state government will now hold the elections as an electoral body? No. We would like INEC to conduct the election. But then, because we are key stakeholders in this process, our party is participating in this process, we would want a free, fair, and transparent process. In fact, why should it worry INEC if people in Rivers State say, look, they can't accept any other outcome except an outcome that is produced out of a free and fair electoral process? So we would want to have confidence in INEC. It is INEC's own impropriety that is making us lose confidence in the institution itself. We want to support INEC, but it is dangerous, I tell you, Suleiman, it is very dangerous to rig any election in Rivers State, because the people are fully sensitized to know that they have a sovereign right to choose their leaders. All these kind of antics and shenanigans that we are seeing on the part of INEC and APC